You're listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello, and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Joining us today is Annie Berryhill, author of Breakthrough to Freedom, the ultimate guide to creating a life you love on purpose. Annie is a wife, a mom, a woman of faith, and has been coaching professionally since 2005 in fitness, nutrition, and mindset. Annie's also the host of the upcoming podcast, The Bold, Brave, and Sassy Show. Welcome, Annie. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Well, thank you. Well, Annie, did your career lead you to the writing of your book?
You know, I think I had always had a book inside of me. You know how they say almost everybody has a book inside of you, and I'm a voracious reader, and I think I just really always glamorized a book idea in my head. And I literally have probably 9 outlines in varying degrees of completion still. Okay. You know, I'm always working on a book. But my experience with working with people and seeing what people struggled with, the same kind of things over and over, really gave me the foundation for wanting to write a book. And the book being not just information, but action. You know, how to take the action to move you forward.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's from coaching?
It's from coaching and things that I learned from being coached, from coaching other people, seeing, again, that consistent pattern of places where people were getting stuck, and kind of just coming up with a framework to lead them through how to, you know, get around that or break through that. And that's why the book is called what it's called. So
I guess coaching for it's been more than a decade, right?
Exactly.
There's probably a lot of material that you could write the book from.
For sure. There's so much information out there just from a self-help perspective. And, you know, as you grow, you learn something and then you kind of hold on to it and then you use it, and then you teach it to someone else, and then it becomes really deep and it becomes part of your vernacular and it becomes part of your toolbox. And so I wanted to put all of those things that I had learned and I was using frequently with my clients into a book. And that's how the book got written. And it took 3 years to do because I just was dilly-dallying and not being all that serious about it, but it eventually got published. So that was really great.
Well, how did it work for you? So you said you had this idea, it took you 3 years, but did you find the writing hard? You said part of it was that you were doing other things, but the actual writing, did you find hard?
Well, it wasn't difficult to write because I had written the outline originally. So I kind of knew the path that I wanted to take the book on and where I wanted to end up and what I wanted to say. But it was remembering, you know, the stories that I wanted to include. And so it kind of evolved in my own head. I would go, oh yeah, I remember that, or something else would happen. And then I would include it in the book. And one of the things that really helped me, which I always tell people when they're talking about writing a book, is a lot of it I ended up just as I was driving, I'd get this amazing download of an idea and content, you know, for the book. And so I would just turn on the recorder on my phone. And as I was driving, I was just blah, 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 blah. And then I would send it off to be transcribed. I'd go through it. I'd edit it. I'd tighten it up and then insert it where it belonged in the book.
Wow. I like that idea.
Yeah, right. So you would just send that audio file right off.
Exactly. I'd actually send it to Dropbox and save the original audio. And then I would send it to, like, now we can use Temi, which is TEMI, or rev.com. But Temi it's automated. So it's like 10 cents a minute. And then if it's just a single voice, it's very easy for them to really get a good grip on what you said. And then I just go through and edit it myself. And then, you know, obviously send it on to the next editor who would work their magic.
Sure. So we'll put Temi in the show notes, but you're happy with that service? I mean, you're happy with the results?
Yeah, Temi's great because you can actually, when you first look at it or when you first receive it back, and it takes minutes, like 10 minutes, you can listen to it and it'll highlight each word that it just did. So if you need to make any changes to it, you can actually fill it in. Because sometimes because it's automated, it's more a computer interpretation of it. They don't always get, you know, dialects, or if you're speaking really quickly. It's a little bit rougher when you have 2 people on a show. So that's where I use rev.com. That's another great resource. It's $1 a minute, but it's It's really great. You can also use that for captions on videos.
Okay.
That's good information.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really helpful. And because those lucid times when you're just driving and you're kind of, you know how to drive. And so you're not really thinking about that, but your mind tends to relax. And I feel like, the shower or when you're taking a walk or when you're driving are those times when you just get those really, really great ideas just coming. And I wanted to make sure I caught them.
That's great. So now how did you decide who to pick as an editor?
I worked with a woman who owned a publishing company, and I know myself well enough. And actually, it's a lot of what I teach in the book is really your personality style and your strengths and really just working within what you do well already. And I'm a very global thinker. I'm big picture. I can break it down into, some categories, but she's super detail oriented. And basically what I did was, here's my manuscript. And she sent it to her editors, and then she edited it, and the interior designer and the book cover designer. So basically I handed it off to her.
Oh, that's nice. And you were,
oh yeah.
And obviously it was a good working relationship.
It was great. It was fantastic. She was wonderful. Unfortunately, she's closed that business now to work on something else with her husband. I know she was an incredible resource. I could probably send 100 people to her right this minute, but it really was great to be able to hand that off and then have fresh eyes look at it and then see it come back in this formatting that was even better than what I could have imagined. It was amazing.
And then what about publishing?
And publishing, I self-published. So I just went through her, and she actually got it all set up with the book printer and did all the Amazon things for me, all the, doohickey, stuff that you have to put on Amazon that I still don't know how to do. But, it was worth it to me because my goal was, I had worked on it for 3 years and kind of, like I said, dilly-dallied. And I was coming up, it was the beginning of the year, my birthday's in October, and I was turning 50. And this light bulb went on, and I was like, what if I published my first book when I turned 50, on the day I turned 50? Like, what an amazing thing.
Yeah.
So then
on that day?
On that day. So that was our goal, and it lit a fire under my butt and got me moving and got her moving. And we did it, and it was fantastic. And like, even just thinking about it right now, it just makes me want to cry because it's so exciting.
Right. Congratulations. That is nice.
Yes.
You set your goal and you did it. So
yes, exactly.
Great. Now, what about, I'm looking at your cover. So did you have a photo shoot?
That photo that was on the cover was from a photo shoot that I had done a little bit, maybe a year or so before. So I had a collection of pictures, and it's really funny because that cover, the first design of that cover came from someone on Fiverr.
Oh, okay.
Of all things, on Fiverr. And then I had I won't say a more professional person, because I found actually quite a few really good people on Fiverr, but I used my publisher's book cover designer. She had to do the spine and do the layout on the back, which I didn't have. So she did some tweaks and some, fine tuning of it, but essentially it's the original cover that I got off of Fiverr that I have my guy do on Fiverr.
Wow. So you just gave them a little bit of an idea, or you just said, this is what the book is about. What can you come up with?
Yeah, I think I sent him the element of the chain that was on there and my picture and kind of the feel that I was going for. And then they came up with the rest. That's not my skill set. So usually when I have logos done or designs done, I'll say, this is what I like. This is what I, want. They'll send me something and I'll know it by like intuition. I'll be like, oh yeah, we're really on the right track. In fact, the gentleman that I worked with to design my podcast cover, he had me do a mood board on Pinterest, which is another really great tool to be able to just collect things and make a board that has things that you like and kind of capture what you're going for. So if someone's thinking about their cover, that's a good way to go as well.
That's a great idea. Then you just share it with them, and then he sees the images and the thoughts. Great idea.
Right. Even down to fonts. I was able to upload some fonts for him as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, speaking of your podcast, is the podcast related to the book, or is that just a separate
entity?
Well, it kind of is. I would say it's, in the time since I wrote the book and published the book, I've grown and I've learned a lot more professionally, and I've also gone through other things personally and working with clients. So I would say in a way there's a lot of the book, because all of that still applies, but it's the next sort of
progression.
I don't know, progression. Yeah. And it's really about encouraging women who have maybe lost themselves in the course of, a job or being a parent or being a wife, and just really just returning to their unapologetic, confident self and helping them to be able to do that. So
well, that seems perfect, because as a woman whose kids went off to college now, you're right. You're like, okay, now what?
Now what?
Yeah,
Exactly.
who am I? Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think we really, and I've gone through it as well. Our sons are 29 and 25. So I know exactly how it feels to have to rediscover yourself. And for some women, that's a really depressing time, because I even told my kids, I said, I just lost the best job I ever had.
Right.
And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you guys,
And you're also broken off from the community in a way, meaning you did,
you had so many connections to the community through your kids and sure.
activities. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like one day you're involved and the next day you're like, oh, okay.
Right.
What now? So I think that's a huge thing in our, that people don't really realize how hard that transition can be.
It is. And just even how, and as a mom, like even sometimes in the dirt of it, in the mud of raising kids, it's so all consuming in so many ways, especially if, you have more of a traditional household, which we have. My husband had this crazy life that was not going to be good for our family, for me to be going off doing a million things. And the kids are like, hey, where's my parents?
Right.
And, but you do lose yourself in that as well. So it's really just about encouragement. And I have people who are professional chefs. I have social media experts that, are teaching us how to not lose yourself on social media and lose your identity and feel bad about yourself, how to insulate yourself from that, and how to fuel your body so that you're healthy, so that you feel good about yourself, and connecting with your identity. We have so many interesting people that I've interviewed, and I'm doing solo shows too, things that are important to me that I feel like, the listeners need to hear.
Well, it sounds like you have a great book and a great podcast. Congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's been tons of fun.
So what about publicity? What have you been doing for publicity for the book?
Well, when I actually will admit, I have gone on to focusing on the podcast. So the book has been a bit by the wayside. Initially, when I launched the book, it was a lot of word of mouth and social media sharing and, sending it out to my email list. I did try some Facebook ads, but I was doing them myself, and I'm not very proficient at them because, again, there's the details in there. I can create them, but, tracking the metrics is not my skill set. So I think I ended up wasting a lot more money than benefiting from it. But, I probably didn't do the publicity that I could have done, maybe based on what I know now or who I know now. Really.
Okay.
But, doing a combination of free things and including it in blog posts and, talking about it online or pulling parts out, things like that, going to speaking events or, sharing it, always having them in your car.
Yeah,
using
it's a good idea. Yeah.
Business cards on steroids, as somebody's once described them,
So you mentioned your mailing list. How did you get a mailing list? It's difficult to grow one.
It is. And again, from all the different business courses that I've been involved with in the communities that, I'm in, it's just a combination of free and paid traffic. We can be on, whatever social media channels you prefer, because I personally, I don't care for Twitter. I don't get it. I can't be that short. I like to talk a little bit longer. So Twitter just confuses me and makes my head hurt. So I focus on Facebook and Instagram and really just kind of pepper that with, encouraging things that get people's attention without being directly salesy. And then offering the opportunity to say, hey, I have this 10-point checklist. Where are you stuck in your life? Take this quiz or, things like that, where you're able to kind of share that as it relates to the book. And then, doing paid traffic. I actually hire a girl to do that because it's not my skill set and I don't want to learn it because that's a giant rabbit hole that I don't want to go into. So it's just a combination of the free and paid traffic and, promoting it through friends and not really affiliate things, but having other people share it with their list as well.
Oh, okay.
Are ways to
Right.
do that.
So a good idea for somebody who might be writing a book would be, if they know the book is coming out in 6 months, to be able to come out with a PDF of 5 things, 10 things that they could offer someone, and then say, go to my webpage and sign up for these 10 things, and then that person's on your mailing list. Obviously,
Exactly.
they're interested in you, so then when your book comes out, you say, hey, it's coming out in 2 weeks, it's coming out in a week. Hey, my book is here. Don't you want to buy it?
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, and that's kind of what I've done with my podcast. I'm using messenger bots right now, Facebook messenger bots, and the open rate on those is like 80%. So it's really amazing to be able to use that also. It's really cool. I use a program called ManyChat. It's $10 a month, and you tie it to your business page on Facebook, and you're able to, say, if you post something and you say, if what's your biggest challenge with this, something related to your book, and they put an answer, a series of answers that you've already pre-programmed, and they type that, they automatically get sent a message, and it's related, like, hey, do you want to know more? And it becomes this conversation that you can have, and it's automated, but it's immediate. And people will almost always look at their Facebook messages,
Sure.
which is really cool. So that's what I've kind of done with my podcast, is I promoted it through different groups and things that I've built, and created a URL that when they clicked on it, they automatically got connected to Messenger, and then they were on the list. And then as we go, I'll be like, okay, 1 week to go, we're going to be launching, tell your friends, share, whatever it is that I want to say.
Right.
Sounds
So
like a good idea.
Yeah, so I agree with Messenger. If I see that I have a little red number 1 next to my Messenger, I click on it because I know it's somebody I know sending me a message, as opposed to when you look at Gmail and you see that you have 35 new messages and they're all from restaurants that you signed up for or whatever,
Exactly. And it is good too, because it's not the kind of thing. Facebook is very, very protective of it, because they don't want it to be a spammy place. So in your very first message, you're required to ask for permission. And through over the course of time, as they're, on your quote unquote messenger list, you're required to, regularly ask people, if you still want to stay, but if you don't want to go, just press stop and we'll take you automatically. And it's just automatically removes them. So it's a really nice way to be not too intrusive and very conversational, and get a good response from a book writer, business person perspective.
Great. And what's that app again? I'll add that to the show notes.
Sure. It's called manychat.com.
Great.
So, Annie, how's the best way for our audience members to purchase a book?
The easiest way would be to just look it up on Amazon. You can look it up by my name, Annie Berryhill. Currently, it's the only book that I've written that's up there. Hopefully more to come.
But you have one. That's wonderful.
Right.
I do have one, and I'm very, very proud of it. And I think, the people that I get comments all the time, people are like, I'm rereading your book. I remember it was so good. And that's like, to me, just fills my heart, So you can download the digital copy on Amazon, or you can order an actual printed hard, soft cover, I should say, it's a soft cover book. And also what I've included in there's a link in the very beginning of the book to a workbook. So if you're the kind of person that wants to actually do the exercises in the book, you can just go to that website, enter your email, and then I just have it sent to you automatically.
So it's all online then, the workbook.
Exactly.
That is one. I would think that would be very helpful for people. Yeah. Very, very helpful.
Exactly. Especially if you get the digital book and you don't have the physical book to be able to write in and highlight.
Sure.
Then, being able to take notes and write down your thoughts and do the exercises on a piece of paper is really helpful.
Great. And do you get people to add their email to your mailing list?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Yep. So, Annie, do you have any advice for people who are writing books right now who haven't yet gotten to the publishing stage?
Well, it always depends on the person. I often operate from, if I were to sit in front of someone, I would really want to know what kind of personality they have. For me, I'm kind of a driver. I'm really goal oriented. And for me, a deadline worked. That every single time in everything that I do, if I know there's a hard and fast day and time that it's got to be completed, I might wait till the day before because I like that adrenaline rush, but I will get it done, and it'll be good. It won't be a lesser work. It'll actually be really good. But for some people, they need to feel comfortable, or they need to have all the information, or it needs to be fun. And so really the key is setting yourself up and being committed. I think in any way that anybody works, you really need to commit. And the commitment and the belief that this book needs to be written and that there's somebody somewhere that is waiting for this book to come out. You really need to lock into that, because it's hard to sit down and write some days when you have a deadline. It's hard when you know you want to finish it, and maybe your brain's just not firing on all cylinders, you know? Mm-hmm. It's really, really being committed and believing that this book needs to be completed and out into the world.
Well, sure. I think everybody thinks that about the book that's inside them, right? You're like, there's somebody out there who would be interested in my book on fill in the blank.
Well, until you start writing it. And I think a lot of people, I mean, I've actually taught classes on people, you know, where people have said, you wrote a book. How did you write a book? I'm like, I had enough people ask me that. I'm like, well, why don't we just do a class? You know, and I taught this class. I called it the Activated Authors Academy, where it's like, let's just not talk about being authors. Let's go start writing.
Wow.
That, you know, and had some accountability with that, because I wanted to be able to help them get through. And it is amazing how many people wouldn't show up for class. They'd make an excuse about why they didn't write or why they didn't do what they say they were going to do the week before. So everything inside them says, yes, somebody would want to write my book, and it's this lovely dream. But when you get into the dirt, into the muck and the mire of writing in this no man's land where you've started and you've told people you're writing a book, but it's not finished, that is where people drop off. And that's where you have to be committed. Like, you just have to see that finish line and just keep crawling towards it every day.
Right. But when it's finished, what a feeling.
What a feeling. What a feeling. Like, I read my book. Sometimes I'll pick up a chapter and just read it, and I don't even remember writing it. It was just, it's just like literally a download. You know, I feel like I just had this creative flow that was just going so strong that it just bypassed my thinking brain. It just was pure creativity, you know?
That's great.
Yeah.
And then how would our audience members get in touch with you?
So I'm all over Facebook, Annie Berryhill. So you can check my business page. It's just Annie Berryhill, and Berryhill is an E, so Berryhill. And then my website, this gets a little tricky. You can actually go to annieberryhill.com, and it'll take you right to my website. And on there, you'll see we're setting up the podcast, so you'll be able to tune into that and some, you know, different things on the website.
Great.
For getting in touch with me. Yeah.
And when will the podcast be available?
June 7th, I'm launching the first few episodes.
Oh,
wonderful.
Fantastic. Great.
Right around the corner.
Yep,
right around the corner, and it'll be a weekly show after that.
Well, thank you, Annie, for being a guest on our show today. It was great talking to you, and best of luck with your new podcast.
Well, thank you guys so much. This is a ton of fun. You guys asked some great questions, and it's just been a treat to be on the show with you guys.
Well, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Let's take Annie's advice and set goals. We all have something in the back of our mind that we say we're going to do, but either because we're afraid or because we don't have enough time, we don't do it. Let's set a hard goal and reach that goal like Annie is trying to push us to do.
And if you've written a book as a result of listening to our podcast, let us know. We'd love to have you on as a guest. And until next time,
right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.